We have completed 3 units, guys. I think we had last class we had finished entity framework CRUD operations also. That is the end of third unit. We are in the fourth unit now. The fourth unit has two components. One is ASP.NET AJAX and web services using ASP.NET. Okay. So the first segment is ASP.NET AJAX, and practically it is a very simple thing, but theoretically it's a bigger thing to explain. But practically when you do the program, you will not find it much difficult. But this foundation, this presentation of what is AJAX and how it works in ASP.NET is compulsory to understand how that programming works. So let me just quickly start with that. And what we are going to see in the future classes would be just what is AJAX, and how is the framework of AJAX made of, and what is ASP.NET AJAX specifically, and how it works. Okay, and we are going to see some controls which are only going to help us do AJAX based websites. Okay, so in order to understand that, first of all, we need to know what is AJAX and how it works in other technologies. Then we will go to ASP.NET. Okay. Now, just before we go into that particular part, okay, please remember the full form of that. Again, most of you already know asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Okay, that is AJAX. Okay, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. All right, so that word brings it as AJAX, and it is a group of technologies. Okay, it is not a single technology, it's a group of web development technologies or techniques which are used on the client side, so that you can get an interactive web application, or sometimes called as rich internet application. Okay, so like, what do you mean by a group of interrelated stuff? Okay, like for example, we call lamp, wamp and all those things, but then basically it is not one. It is not one software. It is installed as one application in your system, but then it is basically your Windows, or your what do you call, your operating system, and then Apache as a web server, then PHP as the scripting language, then MySQL as the database. Like that, we have a collection of things, but we call it as lamp. Okay, like that, AJAX is also a collection of web technologies which work together to give you a rich experience on the internet. Okay. With AJAX, web applications can retrieve data from the server asynchronously. Okay, I want you guys to understand that word, very important. Okay, it is your, with AJAX, your web applications will be able to get data from the server, okay, asynchronously in the background without interfering with the display as well as the behavior of the page. Okay, let me just give you a simple example. Let's say that you are going to click on the like button of a particular post in Facebook. Okay, the like button, the moment you click on submit, just think of what is happening in the background. Okay, in the background, once you click on that button, a request is going to the server. Okay, break it down and understand this, guys. The moment you click on that button, not on your app, just think of your web application. Okay, on a website, you're opening that application and you're clicking on that button called like. Okay, so the moment you tap on like, basically a request should go to the server. Why? Because that like is counted, right? How many people have liked a particular post, and that count is getting incremented, which means it is stored in the database. It is not stored on your client side. It is stored on the database server side. So the moment you tap on the button, a request is generated and it goes to the server. The web server calls the database server and updates this value and returns. Please note, the moment you click on like, you see that you have liked this, and total likes you can see on the side. So basically what is happening is, request is going to the server, and it has done that or completed that request. And when it comes back to the client, okay, in the client, you are changing the value without changing everything in that page except that particular button. Okay, please note, typically without AJAX, how your like button is supposed to work. The moment you click on it, your page should be refreshed, reloaded. Okay, it should be reloaded to get that new data, which is you have liked this and this many number of counts are there, you and so many people have liked this. All these things should come or after refresh, just like how we did that drop down list. The moment you change the drop down, there's a small refresh happening. Okay, that is nothing but page reload, in which your data, the data from the server or the request from the client is hit the server and then it comes back. Okay, so this is why we use AJAX. Okay, I hope you got what is AJAX in general. Let me move forward. Okay, it is not a programming language. It's not something which is new. Actually, it is basically there from a long time. Okay, but it is a new way to use existing standard. Now I can't even use the word new because it's become like mandatory in almost all web applications right now. Okay, and just a little bit about history of AJAX. Okay, applets were the first one to establish this kind of a concept. Okay, what is the concept? It allows applet, if you remember, I think you would have studied, but it's not working anymore. It is deprecated, or it is what do you call it? Is anymore obsolete. It's not required. Okay, but please note, applets were a big hit in that time, 1995. Okay, when web was just coming up, and you can see applets which run like a desktop application on that web browser. Okay, it was client side, compiled client side code to load data asynchronously from the web server, because applet runs on its own. It has its own life cycle. It is loaded on a web page. Okay, so when applets work on that, basically it looks like a desktop application which is running in your web browser, which is asynchronous. Okay, what do you mean by synchronous and asynchronous here? Okay, like for example, call is a synchronous one, because both of us, whoever is calling and the person who is receiving, both must be online, and they must be interacting with each other. That becomes that becomes synchronous. But a WhatsApp chat or an SMS is not synchronous, it's asynchronous, which means after you had sent the message, I can respond to you later. Okay, I can see that, I can check whether it is relevant to respond, then I can respond. It's asynchronous. Okay, I hope you get the idea, but that's not the idea here, but just to get the word I'm telling. Okay, asynchronous is not in sync with the server or the client. Okay, both of them can communicate with each other asynchronously without affecting the front end behavior. Okay, so in 96 IE Internet Explorer, they gave something called iframe. Okay, that's still used in so many places, but it is not required, or it's not suggested to use iframe anymore. But still, that was also used, which means one iframe will hold some data, and the other iframe will hold some other data. Clicking here would change the value there. Okay, so it looks like AJAX, but it is not basically AJAX. Okay, and in 99 there is something called ActiveX controls. Okay, I don't know how many of you have come across that, but in it was a major problem with Internet Explorer. Not just, there are a lot of other problems, but ActiveX controls were something which were allowing applications to run on the client. Okay, that is where these viruses and stuff were introduced to your system. If you just click on a link, nowadays it is not there. Okay, nowadays you have to install a software to make sure that I mean, if imagine that you visited an email comes to you, a spam email comes to you with some virus in it. Okay, you click on it, it will ask you to download something. You will have to download and allow that the system to install, then only your system gets affected. But when ActiveX was working, just clicking on that and allowing ActiveX in your browser can take over your entire system. Your browser, that ActiveX control can take control over your system. Okay, but that is also there, but it was not. I mean, it is now even supported by something, but now it is not. Okay, but it is called XML HTTP. Okay, now it is not changed. It's from ActiveX control. It's changed into a class. Okay, it can be accessed, and there are a lot of restrictions on the browsers now. Recent browsers have more sophisticated features for that. Okay, but this is the history. And but AJAX became very famous when Google started using it. Okay, for example, best example is Google Maps. All right, you can see that on your system. You can drag, you can check for a particular place. Okay, there are a lot of images which are coming together in that Google Maps. Okay, what you see is basically a series of images. Okay, but then it keeps moving, and whenever you move, your browser does not get refreshed, rather only that particular part get refreshed. Okay, just like Gmail. From 2004 and 2005 Google Maps, there where Google started using AJAX, and people saw the feature and then they liked it. Then they started adapting AJAX into their websites. Okay, so it became famous after Google's introduction. Okay, and let's see what are the technologies inside this AJAX. All right, like DHTML, dynamic HTML, and LAMP. AJAX is not a technology in itself; it's a group of technologies. Okay, what are the group? What are the technologies comprised inside AJAX? Okay, number one, HTML and CSS. Okay, also XML and XSLT. All right, so why have I put these two together is because HTML and CSS, how CSS is for HTML is how XSLT is for XML. Okay, if you wanted to beautify an XML file, you use XSLT. It's an XML based style sheet language. Okay, so remember that. And CSS is HTML based style sheet language, which is CSS. All right, so these technologies also are there, and please note XML is part of it. That's why it's called, last word is AJAX, that XML stands there, because XML is basically not meant for displaying, rather it is meant for storing and transporting data. Okay, so interchange of data and manipulation of data. Next one, the DOM, the document object model. Okay, whenever you start writing a HTML page, basically you have a structure. You have HTML, you have head, you have body. Inside head, there are some tags which are allowed. Inside body, there are some tags which are allowed. There is a tree structure form. Okay, and when you create that HTML form, there are a lot of things which are getting created. That is called as a document object model, accessed using JavaScript. We normally use it through jQuery and all, but basically with JavaScript to dynamically display and interact with information. Okay, and then this is an object. Okay, XML HTTP request. Please note the keyword XML HTTP request. Now, those who have written AJAX based code, apart from .NET, okay, apart from ASP.NET, if you have used AJAX in any other technology like PHP, okay, if you are using it in PHP or Java, okay, wherever you use this technology, you would have written function. You would have written a JavaScript function using this particular object called XML HTTP request. Okay, remember that, those who have done it, but then keep this in mind. And basically JavaScript that to bind all these technologies together. In other words, AJAX primarily is dependent on JavaScript for its working. Okay, but then basically it has constituent technologies. Please remember this. Okay, just put a diagram there, just look at that. Okay, traditional web application, and I'll explain this diagram. Okay, and then next we will see how AJAX based web applications work. Okay, let's start with number one. Okay, there is a page one. Can you, I guess you guys can see this. Okay, I hope that you can see this. Okay, there is here there is something called page one, right? Okay, in page one there are two forms given there. Okay, in page one there are two forms, and imagine that form one is giving a request. Okay, please note, one page, two forms, and only one form is giving a request. But please note, in traditional websites, if I have two forms in a particular page and I click on one form, okay, the page will reload even though the second form has nothing to do with the first form. Okay, the page will reload. That is the traditional way of web application working. So when a request goes to the server, okay, a process request, a response is generated, and then please note, I wrote that as page one here, just so that you understand, your system does not think that it is the same page. Okay, that's why we use state management. I hope you guys remember HTTP is a stateless protocol, which means the next time the same page is coming with the response, it is considered as page number 2. I hope you guys follow. All right, so page 2 is given as a response. By the way, same page only. For you, it's understandable that it is the same page which is coming, but for the system, it thinks it's a new page. Page 2 is coming with updated. Okay, which means here what happens in your client, your page will get reloaded. The moment it gets reloaded, your system or browser thinks page 2 has come, okay, with some data, and it is displayed here. All right, now what about the second form in that page? If it gives a request, it goes and it gets a response. Again, it thinks it's a new page. It considers it as page 3, and the page reloads and then gives you a response. This is how traditional web applications work. Okay, please look, have a look at the diagram and understand what is happening. All right, page 1, form 1 gives a request. The entire page reloads and thinks a new page has come, and page 2 is displayed. According to the client, according to your browser, this is page 1, this is page 2, that is page 3. But basically, you know that it is the same page. Only some data is changing here and there. But whatever this form has to do, the first form has to do, has nothing to do with form 2. But still, please note the entire page is reloaded and it's considered as a new page. And same thing when form 5, when second form has changes here, it is again taught as a new page itself, not as the old one. So this is how traditional web applications work. And whatever we had done so far also follows the same procedure. Please remember that. Okay, moving on. What about AJAX based web applications? Just look at the page number. There's only one page. Okay, your browser still thinks it's the same page. But please note, when form 1 gives the request, please note now question number 1. Okay, when form 1 gives the request, Okay, there is your request object, there is a response processing. Okay, in the background, it goes to the server, gets the response and gives it to you here. And there's an update coming. So 1, 2, okay, and then it comes back and then it gives you a response. At the same time, you can also ask the second form to work. When one form is working, you can work on another form. Okay, in other words, let's say for example, you are liking on one post and also you're unliking another post. Both will be considered separate. Okay, they'll go as a partial page update. So one page will go here, one page will go there. All right, so here also you see that there is continuation here. While 1 and 2 is happening, 3 is also happening in the simultaneous process. So here 3 goes, request goes, and then the response goes, and then the data comes back, 5 here. Okay, please note that it is going asynchronously. It's previous one was very, very synchronous, if you notice that. Okay, it goes traditional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can see that the process is very much synchronous, one after the other. Okay, but when it comes to AJAX based web applications, the process, please note the numbers are all randomized here. You can see 1, 2, then 3 is not here, 3 is here, because at the same time you can give another request. So it is asynchronous. Okay, and please note the client still thinks it's one form with new updated form details. Okay, so request goes, generates response and updates only the form, not the page. Similarly here also, request response and generate response. Once the response comes, updates only this form, not everything else. Okay, so it is basically considered as single page but multiple updates to the same page. I hope this is clear to you guys. All right, this is how AJAX and traditional and AJAX based web applications work. Okay, now what about ASP.NET AJAX? Okay, please remember ASP.NET AJAX is name of Microsoft AJAX solution. All right, Microsoft has done a huge research on that at that particular time when it was released, and they comprised everything. They wanted to hide the complexity of writing an AJAX based code with the user, and they took up everything. All right, so you can see that from Microsoft there are two types. One, on the client side there are certain things generated. On the server side there are some extensions. That's what we are going to work with. Okay, we are going to use components of AJAX and we are going to generate whatever we require. All right, so I'll show that, but before that just look at the keyword alone. All right, on the client side you have components. Okay, non-visual components, behaviors, controls, etc. And these are all achieved using JavaScript, which is generated from .NET. You need not write JavaScript code at all while you're using ASP.NET AJAX. But any other technology, when we want to bring AJAX into picture, you will have to know JavaScript, you will have to use JavaScript. But when it comes to ASP.NET AJAX, it makes sure that it takes care of the generation of that JavaScript code and you need not bother about it. And also browser compatibility. Those who have written code will know how AJAX code was written. Okay, you can see that there will be a big if-else condition. I don't know how many of you remember that, but if you have written AJAX code, there will be two things. First, you will have to find out whether it is Microsoft Internet Explorer. If it is Internet Explorer, you will have to write a different code. If it is not Internet Explorer, you have to write a different code, which means your AJAX code is browser based. But when it comes to ASP.NET AJAX, browser compatibility is taken care by AJAX itself or ASP.NET itself. Okay, and networking, asynchronous request, XML and JSON serialization, etc., etc., and core services, everything is given from Microsoft AJAX as a library. Okay, and also from the server side, you have script support, you have web services, you have application services, you have server controls. Okay, that's what we are going to focus on. We are going to use server controls to do whatever is required from our side to give AJAX to our website. Okay, so remember that. Moving on, why should I use ASP.NET AJAX? Okay, so first one, efficiency. All right, why should I use AJAX? Number one, okay, it is to give a good experience to the user. All right, and why should I use ASP.NET AJAX? Number one, same again, the efficiency of the website will be much better, plus user experience. Okay, that matters a lot. All right, so web pages processing in the browser. Partial page updates. What do you mean by partial page update? Normally, HTML cannot reload a part of a page. Okay, HTML cannot reload a part of a page. Imagine that I write a HTML page and I change something. When I refresh, the entire page is getting refreshed once again. But in XML, it is not the case. XML, if I change a particular tag, only the tag which was updated will get reflected. The other things will be remaining as it is. So partial page updates will refresh only the parts of the web page that have been changed. Okay, So that is an advantage for us. And the next one is client integration with ASP.NET Web Application Services for forms, authentication, and user profile. Client integration also is possible with ASP.NET application. And integration of data from different sources through calls to web services. I think most of you would have seen this. In a lot of websites, it is there. The temperature. Okay, some websites display the temperature of your locality, and some websites, like for example Yahoo and all, they used to display the cricket scores live in a corner of that particular website. If you go to the website, some websites will also show the Sensex and the dollar rate and all those things on the right hand side of the page, okay, or left hand side of the page. Depends on where they want to display it. Okay, but please note that is not done by them. That's a web service which is given by somebody, but it is displayed in that page, which means I can integrate data from different sources. Like for example, I can get weather from the weather channel, and as well as Sensex from the stock market, and all those things I can display it in the same page, but the source of the data can be different, and it will not affect my page because the data is coming from them, and it will be displayed using AJAX in the background. Okay, so that is one more advantage for us. And it is a framework that simplifies customization of server controls to include client capabilities. All right, and I want you to focus on the word called framework here. Okay, a framework has been created for you in order to put AJAX in your website. So it's very easy for you to use AJAX without even writing coding or code with respect to JavaScript or something. You can achieve AJAX capabilities. Okay, and one more thing is it supports almost all browsers. Okay, it almost all browsers, it supports using ASP.NET AJAX. And I think with this slide I'll stop for today, but then please note there are 5 important controls of AJAX in ASP.NET, and we'll be seeing them about each of these things in the next class in detail. All right, I just want you to remember these 5 keywords. These are very, very important. Starting with script manager, second one is script manager proxy, third one is update panel, fourth is update progress, fifth is timer. Okay, these are all very powerful controls which we'll be seeing in the next class. Okay, with this I'll stop for today, guys.